see about everything that he said. So it was cool. It does bring you back. I mean, I've always said to you, I think the hardest job in sports writing is covering preps, because look, you don't get a lot of accolades. It's the people reading it or just the kids and the parents, and it's the hardest work. I mean, it's easier now, but back when I covered, I mean, and you had to file stories on acoustic couplers and the old Trash 80 Radio Shack computers, and use payphones to send stories, and you walk the sidelines. It's hard work, and you keep your own stats, and you don't have PR guys giving you stuff and orchestrating interviews and things like that. And so it brought me back to those days, and it was just a really fun game to cover. It was a tough first two periods, so not the greatest game in the world, and obviously the game became awesome there in the third.
And what's Harding up to these days?
Harding is the goalie coach for Edina High School, and it was good seeing him. I hadn't seen him in probably 6 or 7 months. I saw him at the end of last season a couple times when he came back to the X, and he's still living here in the Twin Cities, and he's got his family over there in Edina, and man, he did a great job with this sophomore goalie, as I called him, Boss Hog for Edina High School. So it was pretty cool talking to Josh.
I saw a reference to you on Twitter about how some of the younger people didn't know what Boss Hog, what the reference was.
Yeah, Dane Mizutani was the one. He doesn't, but all those guys, I mean, it makes me, every time I'm around them, it makes me feel super old. They don't know half my references, but they had no idea who Boss Hog was from the Dukes of Hazzard. They kept on asking me why I kept on calling him Boss Hog. So hey, it's just more and more these days, I start to feel like my grandfather, back when I'd listen to him talk about stuff that obviously was so vivid in his memory. And now it's like I sit here and I, you're around more and more young people. Sean Shapiro from the Athletic Dallas is here. He's another young guy. Same type of thing.
Well, it's really hit me. I'm covering some sons of players that I covered.
Oh, yeah.
I also, there's a guy covering the Twins for MLB.com who was born after he was born after I started covering the Twins as a beat.
Yeah, no, it is nuts. I was talking to Adam Lowry right before the All-Star break, or right before or after the trade deadline, and I covered his dad, Dave Lowry. Same thing. I covered Dave Gagne's, Sam Gagne's father. I mean, Connor Murphy's dad, Gord Murphy. It's just over and over again. It's just it makes you feel completely old every time you're around these players.
Let's thank Fixology Repair. Our friend John Hedges runs the shop's third floor of the Mall of America by Nordstrom's and downtown in the Skyway, right across from Dunn Brothers, south of the Wells Fargo Center. Great service, fast service, cool watches, repairs, all kinds of tablet repair, phone, watch repair. We've told you about it. Check them out, fixologyrepair.com.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations, Mall of America and the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at fixologymn on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
From Mike Burgoyne, is Bruce likely out whether the Wild makes the playoffs or not? And if so, what does Dean prove to warrant being an NHL head coach other than he has spent his guy?
Well, I mean, on top of Bruce, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be, as I've said a gazillion times, it's going to be completely up to Craig Leopold. It's whether or not Leopold wants to eat the rest of the contract, which is almost $3 million in salary, plus the 2 following years where he has got a consulting salary as well, an advisor type of salary. My guess is that that he is going to play out the string. If they miss the playoffs, that he will be gone. And in terms of Dean, I mean, look, it's a lot of it's just speculation that we're all just assuming that he's the guy, just because Paul Fenton brought him in. And what's he warranted? I mean, look, he's a longtime minor league coach. I know that he was a really good player in the game. But I do agree with you 100%, Mike, that I to me, if Paul is going to make the decision and convince Craig that it's time to let Bruce go, you've got to do a search. I mean, you got to do a search at a minimum for intelligence. I mean, that's just the due diligence of being a GM. To me, it's, there are a lot of good candidates out there, and it should go beyond just Dean Evison. Maybe at the end of the day, it is Dean Evison at the end of the day, but we'll see. I mean, it's gonna be a sad day though. From personally, it's gonna be a sad day if Bruce is let go. I mean, that guy every time you come to the rink makes it fun. From a beat writer standpoint, you kind of, as I've said to you a gazillion times, every time you chat with him, you kind of leave in a better mood. He totally gets it, and so it'll be a bad day for all of us around the team that if all of a sudden Bruce is let go.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I'm not a beat writer. I'm not there anywhere near as much as you are, but I like the guy. And I love people who are honest. He just
and this,
he doesn't
look,
filter everything.
Yeah, this is not his fault. I mean, there's so many dynamics here. I mean, a lot of guys on this team have been traded, and right now, the fact that he's even kept this thing together is pretty impressive. There are a lot of guys in the lineup that shouldn't be playing in the NHL. I mean, it's that simple. 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe 4 if you include the defenseman that he's scratching tonight, Potato, and yet he has kept them in this thing despite trading Niederreiter, Coyle, and Granlund. There's not a lot of guys playing well. It's not, to me, his fault. There's a lot of dynamics within this team that make things very difficult on the coach, and yet he's got this team still close to a playoff spot, and we'll see if he can get it done.
Let's thank Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent, Champlin, Hoaglund, handles my insurance, handles Michael's insurance. What more can we tell you about him?
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoagland. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number 1 in car insurance since World War II and number 1 in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
DJ Bay, how much of playing absolute disasters, Aberg and Potato, is a product? How much of that is a product of Fenton's insistence that Bruce play his guys?
Well, I mean, it's just conjecture, but look, I mean, in terms of Aberg, this was a management decision before the All-Star break to use, before the trade deadline to use 3 of the 4 call-ups. So with the injuries, Aberg has to play. I don't think Bruce wants to play him. He has to play. In terms of Potato, that one, it does, the belief is that Paul just wants him playing. And it's just unbelievable when you look at the games that he has played, how many goals he has cost his team. He's just not played well. What's weird about him is that he plays these unbelievable shifts, but eventually he just messes up to the point that they always seem to wind up costing the Wild in a significant way. So, I agree with you. Those 2 pickups haven't been very good, but and nor is Rask, but so far Fiala definitely looks like a player, and now he's just got to finish. And Donato's been good for the team, and I think Hunt has been good for the team. So, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and a couple of them he hasn't so far pulled off the win in the trade, and the other ones he has.
Kind of one more along these lines, another from DJ Bay. How can Leopold possibly fire Boudreau when Evison has shown he cannot even handle the current job he's been given, running the power play, which is over 18? Is that a fair?
I mean, no. I mean, to me, the players are the ones that still have to get it done. I mean, we've seen this for the history of this organization, and it's the same players on the ice. I mean, when Daryl Sador ran the power play, when Andrew Burnett ran the power play, what's the common denominator? It's the players on the ice. The other thing is that with when you take 3 guys off the power play, Coyle, Granlund, and Niederreiter, it's going to be a convoluted mess, and so that's just a fact. So I don't blame Evison for that.
From our friend Bill, who comes out to the live shows, how many recent draft picks will be turning pro next year? You mentioned Connor Dewar. Do you expect Ivan Lodina as well? And
I
also,
think.
Go ahead.
What was the other one?
He also said, since the cupboard is empty in the system, are there any college free agents on the radar outside Matt Robson?
Well, I mean, I don't think Robson's going to sign here. He's got so many options. He's also a Canadian guy. I bet you Toronto's coming after him hard. And I'm not sure how much the Wild like Hunter Shepherd at all. So I don't know if they'll get them, but I think that they are pursuing college free agents, but you still got to recruit them to come here. And so far they haven't been able to sign anybody. They do have 3 roster spots. In terms of Dewar and Ladnia, I definitely think that they turn pro. And then we'll see here in the next little bit if they at least give an ATO to Boca, the Michigan defenseman that just ended his college career. He's got classes to take, but they could sign him to an amateur tryout and then decide later if they want to sign him to an actual NHL contract.
From Anthony Kopka, do you see the Wild moving a defenseman this offseason like a Brodin for either draft equity, clear more cap space, or a right shot winger?
And by the way, Duheim, also the kid from Providence, is somebody that he's a junior, but it's somebody that I'm sure they'll talk to when his college season is over. In terms of Brodin, I mean, I could see it happening. I still think it'd be a huge risk. He's had a really quality year for the most part for a guy that's playing with different partners, had to play different sides. And again, to me, with Ryan Suter only getting older and older, to me, it's a big time risk to trade him. So, but we'll see. I mean, Fenton obviously likes Hunt. He likes Potato. They have Nick Seeler. In Fenton's mind, does that make Brodin more expendable? We'll find out.
From Carter Guther, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Should Wild fans be worried that Fenton is bringing in players he looks at with scout size like Fiala and Potato and would seemingly have a hard time cutting ties with if they don't pan out?
Well, that's kind of what I just said. Is that a lot of times that if you are a GM and you have a history of players, it's kind of like Craig Leopold thought that Brent Flair and Chuck Fletcher had too much, quote, ownership over certain players in this organization. And then the coincidence here is that even though Paul says that he's not bringing in guys specifically because they have national ties, he is bringing guys that he knows really well. And just even listen to the way that he talks about Potato, calling him Tony Potato and talking to him with such admiration. I would agree that he is not being realistic about what this player is and also the way that he has played. I mean, you cannot look at Anthony Potato and not see the warts that he has caused on a nightly basis. And the amount of goals that he has caused, starting with his debut in Buffalo, has been extraordinary, and that's just a fact.
From Alex Potter, how many times have the Wild goaltenders let in the first or second shot of the game? It seems to be a recurring issue this year. It's very depressing for the fans and deflating for the team. Agree?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone through the game sheets and figured it out, but I would agree. I mean, it's a backbreaker, especially if you're a tired team, like playing 5 games in 7 nights and you go to Florida and then you give up such a bad goal the other night. It affects the rest of the game. Sometimes you just don't have the stamina in a game to play, and so you need to be in the game for a long period of time to eventually be able to persist to the point that you actually get the victory. And then all of a sudden, if you are a minute into that game down 1-0 and you're lacking energy to begin with, and you're lacking the ability to play seamless hockey, it just takes the life out of you. So I agree with you. It just seems like the Wild on a nightly basis, pretty much all season long, has been down 1-0. For a while, they were constantly winning games when they were down 1-0, but it has absolutely caught up to them the last 2 months.
From Chris Ostley, any chance the Minnesota Wild go after Joe Pavelski on a short contract due to his age?
I don't know. I mean, why would he sign a short contract? He's going to want at least 3 or 4 years old. He's 34 years old, is going to score 40 goals this year. So while I would love for them to go after him, and I think he would be great here, to me, he could be looking at this as his last contract, and so he's not just going to sign a 1 or 2 year deal to come to Minnesota. I mean, you're going to have to pay him $6.5–7 million, I think, after this type of year that he's had here. So it'll be interesting, though. I can't imagine that he's too happy that San Jose hasn't extended his contract yet. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I do agree with you 100% that signing Pavelski makes all the sense in the world to me.
We're going to just a few more questions. This is kind of a tight version of the show. We will be back and doing an in-person show that we tend to stretch out a little longer and do a little more goofiness. This is kind of a business-like show. Thank you for listening. We do appreciate it. And we'll see if we can get a final thought out of Mike, though. That's always the challenge here. From MJ, not our usual MJ. This is from Captain Caveman MJ on Twitter. Is Rask playing ahead of Eck a direction from Fenton, or does Bruce really see Eck's play and potential as a third liner?
Well,